Mums with Hustle podcast, episode 537.
Welcome to the Mums with Hustle podcast, where you'll discover everyday mum entrepreneurs killing it in their industry. Learn the secrets you can replicate to create your own success with your host, Tracy Harris.
Okay, so one of my mentees inside of Freedom Filled Business recently asked me a question, and I thought, this is so real. This is something that I need to be bringing onto this podcast. We need to talk about it because no one ever casts a light on something like this. And when you put the spotlight on it, you take the power away from it and we get a breakthrough. So what she wanted to do is create an online group program. But what happens to some people is they get caught in what I call the freeze. They get caught overthinking, sometimes overlearning, sometimes over-strategizing, and they never really take a step forward. Self-doubt comes in, imposter syndrome in various forms, procrastination often comes in. And the reason it shows up is because underneath it all, there is a fear. Now, there can be many fears, but largely it is a fear. And so I like to ask my mentees, what is the emotion that you are trying to avoid feeling? What is the emotion that you are trying to avoid feeling? Because that gets us to, close to the root cause behind the delay and the inaction. And so what I love about this mentee is I didn't even have to ask her those sorts of questions. She just came to me and she was already aware of her problem, aware of her challenge. And she said that it is a wound from a past experience of creating an online offer and getting, some negative feedback. Now, I'm going to give you her words here because I feel like I've oversimplified it. And when I share with you her words, I am willing to bet that some of you will find yourself in her experience, maybe not literally or directly, but at least relating to her by the fact that it really is just a past experience that is preventing her from moving forward. We're trying to preserve ourselves. We're trying to save our egos from being hurt again. And that makes sense. This is not something that we should be judging ourselves about, but rather just bringing an understanding, bringing an awareness, bringing it to the light and starting to move through it rather than letting it keep us in stagnation. Nothing grows from stagnation. Things only die. Things rot when you do nothing with them. And the same happens to your dreams. The same happens to your life and the outcomes and the things that you want to be creating or the impact. Like if you're not doing anything about it, it is stagnating and it causes dis-ease. It causes dis-ease, disease, okay? I know that sounds dramatic, but that is what it is. It is stress, it is anxiety, it is sometimes depression or hopelessness, and what we want is to move you forward. So this beautiful mentee shared with me, and these are her words. In all honesty, she says, I think a part of what is at play is a previous experience that I had while working with another coach. During that time, I ran a 6-week course, 2 retreats, and a 6-month program. Only 2 women signed up to the longer program, and one of those experiences became quite confronting as the woman was going through significant mental health challenges and questioned my capabilities, character, and whether I was trauma-informed enough to hold the space. And then she goes on to say, I think that experience impacted me more deeply than I realize. And then she goes on to say, I don't think I've rebuilt my confidence since then. And what I'm struggling with now is that I can see the potential and value in what I offer, but she's in a freeze. So first of all, how amazing is this woman for not letting that past experience prevent her from investing in herself further? So many people live in a loop and they will say, I can't do this because I keep stalling, or I did this last time and it didn't work for me, or I'm not the person that follows through. But she is the type of person that will achieve her goals because she's constantly keeping herself plugged into an arena where people are doing what she's wanting to do. Not only that, she's coming forward. She has a high level of awareness to be able to spot that, and she's calling it forward and bringing it to the light to actually be helped. So what I said to this mentee, and some people may not like this feedback, okay, but this is brutally honest because we need to look at this from a few different angles. I did share with her that there is no one answer to, what she should be doing next, because there is no one way to do anything, and there's no right way. There's just what feels good for you in the moment. So we really can't stuff up our next move. So that always helps me to get out of a freeze. I'm like, I actually will learn nothing from doing nothing. I will stagnate. I will rot. But I can't get it wrong if I take a step. I'm either going to win and get the results I want, or I'm going to learn it's going to get me closer to the results I want. So I really can't stuff this up. I also feel a deep sense of obligation and responsibility to be doing the work that I'm doing. So I ask every single one of you in your industries, do you feel and believe with all of your being that you have the responsibility to do this work, to make a difference in this way? Or is it more, first and foremost, just about you making money and having a really great life? Because that just happens as a byproduct of actually caring about people and wanting to make a difference. So I also said to this mentee, I can see how the past experience of facilitating something really meaningful and then getting that kind of feedback has created a really painful memory for you. That is valid. It is valid to feel the sting of that. But I deeply believe that everything is always happening for us. And what she can do is choose or just decide to process what happened in a way that helps her for her highest good, in a way that helps her become better or become clearer in who she is for and who she is not for. And that is a decision. Just as it is a decision to let this become a reason to stagnate or let this become a reason to give up. Now, she hasn't chosen that, but there would be plenty of other people who would make that become an excuse to quit. It is like when your children say, but he made me feel. No, he did not. We're giving our power away when we do that. So this mentee is not giving her power away. And when I coach her, I am reminding her of her power to choose and to decide. Because here's the truth. Not everyone is going to be happy with you or the experiences that you lead. Not everyone is going to love your program, no matter how amazing and world-class it is. Or not everyone is going to love your retreat or whatever the thing is. There is always space for people to be dissatisfied for whatever reason. Okay, so that is just a known fact. That's always a possibility. So maybe this person fell into that bucket, okay? Now, the next thing is, could this client have been right? Oh, that one can cause a sting. Could the client have been right? It does take a lot to facilitate and lead people at the best of times. And it takes a lot to lead and facilitate people who are also carrying trauma. So I asked this mentee, what experience do you have in leading people at this level who have not yet moved through their trauma and who may really be needing support? Like, what level of experience and expertise do you bring to that? Because maybe we need to up-level in that. I've got some incredible coaches, psychologists, people that are mentors that I am mentoring who specialize in helping people become trauma-informed coaches. So this is a thing, you need to be learning this, you need to be upskilling. If this is something that you want to be offering, and if it falls within the scope of your work, then you have a responsibility to be developing yourself professionally within that. So could the client have been right? Now, does this have to be a thing? If we remove all the emotion out of it, okay, it doesn't have to be a thing that you carry as personal criticism, even though the individual giving the feedback may have made it be about you as a person. We don't have to receive it as personal criticism. Again, that's a decision. Can we remove the emotion out of it? And can we let it help us decide on the scope of our work? Or in the case of this mentee, I said to her, like, can you let this instance help you get clearer on the scope of your work? Where does it start and where does it end? Who do you help versus who don't you help? Because sticking to our lane in business is, I was going to say important. It is more than important. It's essential. We need to stick to our lane. When we start just being all things to all people, or when we start, not really triaging people well into whether it's a high ticket one-on-one or into group programs or masterminds, and we're just kind of welcoming anyone that is willing to buy it, and we're not really putting in place strict criteria for certain things, or maybe our messaging is also really vague and broad, and maybe it sounds like we're going to, heal X, Y, and Z, and that's not the scope of the program. We want to make sure that our messaging is accurate and true, and that it is attracting the right level of person, and I guess repelling the people who are not calling in for this. So be really, really clear on your messaging. I feel like messaging is like the number one thing for all people at any stage of business, in any business model. If you have not got the right messaging, you are going to attract people that are not the right fit, or people that come in and expect things outside the scope of what you actually offer. So the words that we use to communicate our offers, they are the key. They are the secret. They're the secret to sales, but they're also the thing that's going to protect you from people just being so dissatisfied, or high refund rates and things like that. Messaging matters. That's why inside of Freedom Filled Business, one of the core pillars inside of Build It is your $1 million message. And that's why I teach this in a mini workshop, or I have taught this. If you ever see it available to come along, like, purchase that. I just think every single business owner needs to come through $1 million message, because it is the foundation of everything, of your content strategy. It's the foundation of why refund rates are so high. It's the foundation of people not getting breakthroughs in your program. It's the foundation of people not even buying your program to begin with. So, a lot of people think they just need more followers or they need more likes. Well, if you're struggling with that, I'm willing to bet you have a messaging problem. So messaging is always, or like 9 times out of 10, what it comes back to. And if you don't have a good, clear message, you will also avoid selling things, because it just feels clunky and awkward or long-winded and wobbly when you go to talk about it. So we need to dial in the messaging. Now, something else that I shared with this mentee is that these sorts of challenges come along in our business. Like, what are we going to do about it? We need to choose how we want to handle this. We want to choose how we're going to be. What type of leader are we? Because leaders are not made in easy times. We are made in the hard, challenging times that would crush regular people. So we're not regular people. This is an opportunity to rise up and be the leader. It's like, how are you going to respond to this? Are you going to use it as an opportunity to fix your messaging? Are you going to use it as an opportunity to not take this personally, to remove the emotion out of it and to look at it for what it is? Is there some truth in this? Is there not? The obstacle is the way. So let's let moving through this challenge be the thing that leads us to our next level, instead of being the thing that makes us like cower and hide and stagnate. It's calling us forward to be the next level leader. It's not causing us to stall or shrink or go backwards. So this mentee gets to design a group program that is aligned with her genius, keeping her in her lane. And she is going to be the responsible leader that upskills in terms of her expertise and her knowledge. And, whatever she goes on to create in the form of a group program, whether it's a course or a membership or, like a 12-week thing or a 2-day thing or whatever it might be, like we can get to the format, the duration, the deliverables, all of that is what we build inside of Freedom Filled Business. But also, ladies, there is no time pressure on you either, except for the time pressure that you put on yourself. Now, people procrastinate a lot in moving the needle in their business or putting out their offers or creating their group programs or doing their launches if you already have a group program. People procrastinate because they put like a time pressure on themselves, usually attached to the belief that you should be further ahead than what you are. And then you put on this time pressure and what does it do? It doesn't make you go faster. It makes you go slower. Stagnation, procrastination. So, when you add a time pressure to yourself, which is the time that you're saying you should be successful in, or I should have achieved XYZ by now, it actually becomes impossible for you to think clearly, for you to decide on when you're going to launch or how you're going to launch it. So breathe. This is why we want to be fresh. I talk a lot about fresh at all times. This is my framework for how to lead $1 million business and life well. We need to be calm. We need to be able to think with a clear head. Otherwise, our ideas are going to suck, or they're just going to be coming from the wrong place of motivation. It's coming from desperation and it will never last. So regulate your nervous system, be fresh, don't create from stress or desperation, create from calm. This is why we work on being fresh entrepreneurs. Okay. I hope that you took out of this episode exactly what it is that you needed to hear, whether it is to, know that it's going to take as long as it takes. What are you going to do? Not do anything? Not get support while you figure it out? Absolutely not. That's not a winner's attitude. That's not what we choose. We choose to get support. We choose to take a step. We choose imperfect action. We choose bringing our self-limiting stories, just like this beautiful mentee, to the light and getting coached. And we decide who we're going to be when a challenge arises, because a challenge is going to arise. But this is the difference between someone who is not a leader, but they're wanting to have a successful business, versus a leader that goes on to scale beautifully and with calm and with profit and peace and all those things that make a freedom-filled business. All right. I hope that this helps. Let me know what landed for you. Send me an email, hello@mumswithhustle.com. And I'd love to see you at one of my workshops one day. So if you see any, sign up. Let's move you forward. Focus on your messaging. And you can either do that with me in $1 Million Message, in one of my workshops, or inside of Freedom Filled Business. And I will catch you here on the podcast next week. Bye for now.